Can't believe these 15 films were not nominated for Best Picture. How come they forgot all these 10 performances for Best Supporting Actor? Here's the 20 worst snubs at the Oscars.
I do that.
It's inevitable to feel disappointed at any award show dedicated to the arts for missing several favorites in the nominations. However, it's also impossible to be completely satisfied. Imagine only having 10 best films out of 1,000. Imagine only having 5 best performances. Imagine snubs will always exist because there's too many amazing films, performances, and technical achievements that distinguish themselves in cinema. Understandably, some are forgotten. That's not to say the nomination process itself isn't flawed, as it prioritizes capital and marketing over quality. But that doesn't remove the importance these award shows, particularly the Oscars, have on the film industry and on the audience itself. This is why it can become disheartening to see personal favorites be snubbed at these award shows. Initially, I wanted to talk about some of my favorite films, performances, and technical achievements that were not nominated for the Oscars. A video about my personal Oscar snubs, like Alana Haim, Renata Reinsve, Taylor Page, Simon Rex, Nicolas Cage, Hidetoshi Nishijima, Colman Domingo, films like Zola, The Green Knight, Come On Come On, Red Rocket, and of course, Dear Evan Hansen. That was the intention until suddenly, a bigger snub occurred that took the conversation away from these misses.
Getting jiggy with it.
No, that's not it. Well, that too, but also. The biggest 2022 Oscar snub this year was not the films and performers that missed the nominations, it was the actual nominees themselves. I know what you're thinking. Clickbait, let me tell you why it's not. Alright, let me tell you why it's okay. There is always a discussion about snubbed films and performances. I love doing it myself, but the revelation from ABC and the Academy that they were not going to televise 8 of their categories felt so dismissive that it created an entire different story. One that I felt like nobody really cared outside of film nerds. Especially now, after the actual ceremony. That's how this video went from me talking about my favorite achievements in cinema this last year, to a discussion about why these categories are vital to the entire process of filmmaking, and why deeming them not important enough to be televised is the biggest snub of the 2022 Oscars. There's a common misconception that short films are just a stepping stone for a future filmmaker, a first stage one must overcome to gain experience and eventually move on to full-length features. It's true that if you want to work in cinema, starting your career on short films allows you to gain a sense of the environment and the creative process of audiovisual storytelling. You're able to acquire experience, learn from mistakes, and grow to discover your own interests, calling, and voice. Through this perspective, these are the filmmakers of tomorrow. They're talented artists that are working through film grants, non-profit organizations, sponsors, personal funds, rich families, sugar daddies and mummies, or just straight up robbing a bank to budget their narratives. Most short films rely on film festival exhibition to reach an audience, since studios, streaming services, or even the public pay little attention to this filmmaking format. Nowadays, some shorts end up being distributed on the internet where they are able to reach a specific public that's prepared for this format of storytelling. However, even then, most just become lost in a sea of confusing algorithms and lack of advertising. You almost feel forced to become a YouTuber in your own shorts. Hey guys, don't forget to subscribe, like the video, and ring that bell! Whether online or outside, it's inevitable to lose a short story in an uninterested market that's growing faster and becoming more competitive, especially for creators that do not benefit from connections or close proximity to this world.
I'm burying you. I'm alive! I'm alive! You're waking the neighbors! Shut up!
That's why film festivals and award shows are the best advertising they can get. The nomination serves as an award itself because it attracts enough attention for the filmmakers to build their careers. It's because of their Oscar nomination that these shorts even get to be played in theaters. If the Academy Awards are a way to respect and pay homage to cinema, then the measure of disappointment is only worse when you ignore the ones who are fighting to belong and live in this world. Yet, it's essential to mention that short films are more than just a starting point for a filmmaker. Established directors like Pedro Almodóvar and Yorgos Lanthimos return occasionally to direct short stories because they understand the unique scope that this medium holds in cinema. That no one can complain about not getting 2 hours of their life back. This was 20 minutes! It's also an alternative method of storytelling that's unbound by time. Short documentaries reveal big emotional stories in our world that need to be shared, even if they don't fit into a 1 hour running time. Animated shorts allow creators to be more experimental and artistic, creating emotional masterpieces through the drive of a pencil. Short films understand that sometimes all you need is one scene to create an entire emotional experience, one moment to say everything that needs to be said. These are the categories that bring hope to anyone with a camera and an idea, that form the filmmakers of tomorrow. Cinema is audiovisual storytelling, which means these are essential pieces in a production. When it comes to technical achievements, audiences are attracted to the most visually evident aspects of filmmaking. By audiences, I mean everyone really. Critics, filmmakers, the Academy, the public, me.
My son.
There's a tendency to fall into a shallow perspective that narrows these technical elements in simplistic ways. Cinematography has the prettiest image. There are several sunsets in this film. That means it has good cinematography. Production design has the most sets. There's a big ass chandelier. That means it has good production design. And sound has the loudest film. People are talking while there's explosions. That means sound good. Don't get me wrong, I love me some sunsets and big ass chandeliers, but that doesn't entirely represent technique. Filmmakers like Guillermo del Toro and Chloe Zhao understand when to use a sunset and how to construct character through sets. It's not just about beauty, it's about the meaning behind the decisions. The best filmmakers recognize the importance of these technical elements in the construction of a story and its characters. They develop unique looks and sounds that communicate more than what's on the page, ultimately enhancing the emotional core of the film. That's cinema. Production design is one of the most unnoticed aspects of filmmaking. Its background. It's spaces for the characters to inhabit and interact in. The audience is mostly focused on the dialogues, acting, and storytelling, therefore they naturally pay less attention to the character's surroundings. Unless, it's a big-ass chandelier. However, that does not diminish the relevancy of production design in a film. It's aesthetic. It's about visually creating what the director sees. The best sets can inform you about the character and their lives more than any line of dialogue could. One of the essential steps to believe a character is real is to believe the world they live in. To believe they have one. If the space doesn't feel natural or lived in, then the audience cannot settle into the story. Production design can be used to create surroundings reflective of the worlds the characters wish to reside in and explore the contrast with the ones they actually occupy. It can become metaphorical for the protagonist's journey, envisioned beautifully through animation, a genre often forgotten in these categories, create distinctive spaces outside of our own reality that distinguish these narratives as otherworldly and function as pathways into the film's universe. Even our actual world can be utilized as incredible production design. The city, the buildings, the parks, everything can serve an important role in the characters' lives. Production design always plays an essential part in the acting, cinematography, and the story itself. It might look like just background, but it never is just background.
That's why I invented this revolutionary makeup gun. It's for the woman who only has 4/5 of a second to get ready. Close your eyes, Marge.
This is the ultimate step for an actor to completely embody a character, building a person through their actual self and converting their body, hair, and skin into another being. In the words of famous Italian philosopher Pistachio di Scasio, become another person. It's a vital part of the filmmaking process, even if it does not look obvious. Makeup and hair designers help the cast further themselves into their performances by developing several styles and looks throughout the film that are relevant to a moment in the character's life. Wait, did I just make a Master of Disguise reference in this video about Oscar snubs? It can look disgusting, dirty, beautiful, natural. It can belong to a period of time or create entire new beings. It can be over the top and it can be subtle. It can convey unique characteristics that define the character's journey in the story, their taste, emotional state, and their identity. Everything established through the texture of the human face. As seen in films like The Last Duel, Last Night in Soho, Lamb, Lamb, Annette, Titan, The Suicide Squad, Malignant, The Green Knight, and of course, Dear Evan Hansen. Designing the makeup and hair is an important piece in the production of a film for the director, cast, and also the cinematography. The HD cameras and lighting equipment create an entirely new detailed environment that enhances and shapes everything differently. Even if a character doesn't need makeup, they always need makeup. There's a reason why they refer to it as camera ready.
All right, Mr. DeMille, I'm ready for my close-up.
Sound is one of the most crucial elements in cinema for the audience to experience the story. That's not to say a movie without sound can't work, just look at the classic silent films. Nowadays though, a silent film requires a unique purpose for being silent. Sound in cinema might feel like a given, but it's one of the most intricate aspects in the production. It's about syncing the lines with the mouth movements, fixing issues, understanding how background noise should affect the scene. What are the present noises heard in a moment? Which ones should be included, which ones are unnecessary or pointless to the storytelling? Part of what makes sound editing such a complicated but relevant aspect in filmmaking is that it's not just about the sounds included, it's also the sounds you choose to omit. Sound mixing, for example, is another complex aspect because you're working with score, non-diegetic and diegetic music, dialogue, foley, adjusting levels, prioritizing the right sounds. You're touching every single audio file to make it sound clear. It's honestly really fucking boring, but exciting, but so boring, but kind of fun sometimes. But really boring. Despite feeling like a given when watching a film, I assure you, it is not. Trust me, it's not. Sound has become one of the most essential elements for an audience to be immersed in the story. It complements the visuals of a film and evokes necessary emotional responses that help forward the narrative. It can create a cheerful environment or a nightmarish one, make a moment uncomfortable or break the ice. It can remind us of our connection with nature and be hypnotic. It can bridge the public with imagination, reality, fantasy, truth, and lies. It can create specific noises that follow you forever. It's about being loud, quiet, being heard, and being silent. It's about making the audience lose themselves, transporting them into another world. It's through sound that the film feels real. It's the rope that connects the public to the screen.
Cut! Perfect!
Oh boy. Wish me luck. Original scores missed from the Oscars telecast is surprising because it's one of the most appreciated aspects of filmmaking. Everybody likes music.
You like jazz?
Even those who don't care much for the technical intricacies of cinema like film scores. It's musical storytelling. Film composers underline stories, communicate character feelings, enhance the emotional impact of a scene, and tell a story that cannot be told in any other form. As the master himself mentioned in his biography, most of the time people experience the music in a film as a subconscious suggestion. In other words, music manages to show what is not visible, to work against the dialogue, or even more, tell a story that the images do not reveal. Film scores are capable of capturing the character's emotional state in their own minds. They can establish tone and attribute a variety of meaning into one single musical sound. From terrifying to playful, melody pieces identify characters, themes, and ideas, ranging from classical to modern, from beautiful to haunting. It can play with background noises outside of instruments in the musical world. We've seen it in films like The Green Knight, Zola, Titan, Shiva Baby, and of course, Dear Evan Hansen. Film scores can also be used sparingly. Every piece of movement is important, no matter how small the note may be. Smaller compositions can achieve the sublime levels of grand epic orchestrations because the best creators understand when to play their compositions and when not to play them. It's not just about developing beautiful notes, it's about telling a story. Even when it's only 30 seconds of music, it is always storytelling. These songs are able to reframe the entire film and our own world. They're majestic musical pieces that can live on without pictures, existing in their own reality, apart from everything else. Yet, there will always be a symbiotic relationship between these original soundtracks and the stories for which they were created for. They form unique and inseparable bonds that reinvent genres and entire narratives. These orchestrations become soundtracks to our own lives, as iconic musical cues become associated with certain aspects or moments in our world. When we imagine our lives as a film, we always envision it with a film score. As British composer Neil Brand said, "I wanted the real world to be like film, and music is a thing that will allow you to do that." Ah, for fuck's sake! It's always surprising when people complain a long film is not a well-edited one. That's not the point of editing. Editing is the art and craft of assembling a film. It's hard to explain because editing is only noticeable when it's done wrong or when the point of the film is to engage its story with visually creative techniques. For the most part, it's invisible storytelling. That's why it's difficult to define editing. It's the final stage of filmmaking and the possibilities are endless. Any different cut can dramatically change an entire scene. See? Editing can be used to focus primarily on moments and emotions rather than plot. Holding on a scene for longer than usual shifts the dramatic response from the audience. You have to know when to stop, when to continue, when to finish, when to cut, and when not to cut. The pacing and movement of a story can feel like an opera. It can be meditative. It can be fast, sudden, slow, or rhythmic. Sometimes, the reason behind a cut is just what feels natural for the moment, or because there's no more coverage of a scene. The motives can range from method to instinct. However, there needs to be a vision behind the edit. There needs to be someone driving the wheel who knows where you're going. Even if you're not completely sure of the way, there must be an idea of where the journey ends. It's in the editing that the story is fully formed, that the narrative achieves the desired emotion. This visual construction can establish atmosphere, character traits, plot beats, add importance to small details, replicate the character's mind, prevent him from breathing, or provide him with comfort. Like any other technical element of filmmaking, it's about how you want to construct the story. What's the intention? What are you communicating? I could keep talking, but the reality is that finer words have been spoken on this matter by French champagne connoisseur
the French
Orson Welles.
This is the last stop on the long road between the dream in a filmmaker's head and the public to whom that dream is addressed. Carlyle said that almost everything examined deeply enough will turn out to be musical. Of course, this is profoundly true of motion pictures. The pictures have movement, the movies move, and then there's the movement from one picture to another. There's a rhythmic structuring to that. There's counterpoint, harmony, and dissonance. A film is never right until it's right musically. It's here that other film instruments are tuned and finally orchestrated. So if you find me winding up our conversation here, you'll understand that as a filmmaker, I'm speaking to you from my home.
The biggest 2022 Oscar snub this year was not the films and performers that missed the nominations, it was the actual nominees themselves. I love the Oscars. I always celebrate the nominations and the wins for the films that I adore. There was some hope that this video would become a waste of everyone's time and poorly aged, but despite constantly pushing the date off and rewriting the script, it just doesn't seem like it's going to be the case. One of the saddest aspects about working these technical features is that for the most part, you're working to be invisible. That's part of the job. That's art. It's easy to think none of these categories matter in an award show when you're not interested in cinema, but if that's the case, then who are the Oscars for if not for people who love cinema? I wish the Academy Awards recognized their own importance to cinema and audiences, because when you pay homage to the seventh art, ignoring your fellow colleagues' work is immensely disrespectful. It happens once a year. The least you can do is give them the love they deserve. You can discuss it, you can enjoy it, you can hate it, you can ignore it, but you can never deny the importance of every single technical element in the creation of a film. If you pay close attention, if you choose to listen,